Hey everybody, Dr. Baker here. Hey, listen, number two. So what we're doing right now is we're doing a series, and I'm doing top 5 reasons to not vaccinate. And instead of doing one long video, what I'm doing is I'm breaking it into 5 videos. And number 1 was you don't need them. So if you haven't seen that one yet, go back and watch it. Today, number 2 is unvaccinated kids are healthier than vaccinated kids. Now, this is something that people argue. And people go, oh, well, how do you know that? Well, listen, let me just make a couple points and just ask you a couple of questions. First of all, have you ever met a parent who didn't vaccinate their kids and the kids are like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years old and they go, oh my gosh, I wish I would have freaking vaccinated my kids. What an idiot. God, those anti-vaxxers duped me into believing that they didn't. You've never heard that. Like, I've never heard that before. What you have seen, though, and please comment, tag a friend, whatever, comment if you have more than one child and the older children had more vaccinations than the younger children, and the younger children are actually healthier, meaning less colds and flus, less ear infections, less doctor's visit, less everything, right? The older one has autism, the younger one doesn't. Older one's got ADHD, the younger one doesn't. The older one didn't talk until they were like 3, and the younger one's talking at like a year and a half. Like, would you please comment? Because I'd like to know from you. Because personally, in practice, I've seen, in the last 5 years, 13 years, I've seen about 5,000 patients. Of that, somewhere around 1,200 of them are kids. And so out of 1,200 kids, I've only had one child that was unvaccinated that had ear infections. What you'll notice is that there's a lot more ear infections when kids are vaccinated. And I've watched kids personally, and people tell me I'm lying about this, but all I'm sharing is my personal experience. When I walk into a room and there's a little baby right there who has not been vaccinated, even really young babies, I still get them to make eye contact with me and they're kind of tracking me. Most of the time, when I see a baby in my practice that's just gotten vaccines, they stare off like right past me. It's kind of like a lost stare. But let's just talk about some data. Male neonates, meaning male babies who get the hepatitis B vaccine at birth, are 2 times more likely to become autistic than those that didn't get it. That's statistic, that's research, that's in goproject180.com. If you haven't gone, go get your free membership, goproject180.com. Hey, I have a friend, his name is Dr. Paul Thomas. He's a pediatrician out of Oregon. Recently lost his license because he didn't want to force vaccines on kids, on parents. He actually was losing about $1 million a year by not following the CDC schedule. He did the math, looked at it all. I've seen the data. Anyway, Dr. Paul did a study in his practice, and he followed kids that were born into his practice for 10 years. And some of those kids are older. There's a factor in there to calculate for the kids that are older versus younger. Long story short, he was comparing unvaccinated to vaccinated. And you may wonder why they never do that study, because it would blow it out of the water. You would realize it would be a horrible idea to vaccinate your kids. So this is I know that, dude, I get it. It's not easy to see what I show you. I'm going to put a link to his study in the description so you guys can have that study accessible. But what you're looking at here is when people took their kids in for a well check, the green line, which is pretty stable, is the unvaccinated kids. As it goes further along this chart, this is the amount of vaccine, the percentage of vaccines that they accepted. So from 0 to 95% of vaccines. And then this line right here shows how many kids had fevers. So bottom line is, as you look at the graph, the more vaccines that children got, the more vaccines children got, the more often they had a fever when they went in for a well check than the kids that weren't vaccinated. Next. This one's a little wild. Now, listen, you have to calculate some numbers here, but this is a chart showing when kids went in for a well check. And these are kids that he had 2,763 vaccinated kids versus 561 non-vaccinated kids. So this is a study of well over 3,000 kids in his practice. Otitis media, meaning ear infections, 216 times it was unvaccinated. Those are kids aren't getting chiropractic care. Whereas there was 3,105 from the vaccinated. Asthma, 13 kids had asthma that were non-vaccinated. 336 of the kids that had asthma at a well check were the vaccinated kids. Anyway, you can go through this whole thing. Now, here's what I want you to do. Recognize that there's a smaller group of kids in the non-vaccinated group. So take the number, right? Otitis media, take 216. My phone was like, where's my phone? It's right. You take the number of incidents, 216 ear infections, divide that by the total of the kids in the population, it's going to give you a number. It's like 30% of the kids, 30% of the unvaccinated kids ended up with an ear infection. If you take the other number, 3,105, and divide it by the number of vaccinated kids, it's over 110%, meaning that some kids showed up more than once with an ear infection in the vaccinated group. Here's the point. He lost his license for that because they don't want you to know that. They don't want you to think that. And part of what happened with COVID was they got you so focused on COVID that you forgot about all the other vaccines that kids are getting. Listen, part of this argument is if vaccines worked, then why do I need to vaccinate my kid? And so this is not going to be one of the top 5, but I think we should include it in here, which is unvaccinated kids are healthier than vaccinated kids. I have 2. And comment, please, if you have any unvaccinated kids that are way healthier than their friends. Go ahead and share that. But if people are asking you, why don't you vaccinate, and they're bitching about that, then ask them the question, point blank, do vaccines work? They only have 2 answers, and don't let them give you anything but a yes or a no. If they say yes, they work, then you reply, then why are you so bent out of shape because I'm not vaccinating my kid? Isn't your kid protected? If they don't work, or there's some flaw, then why are you asking me to do it? Dr. Baker here. Reason number 2 why you don't vaccinate is because unvaccinated kids are way healthier than vaccinated kids. They don't have the goop in their nose and their eyes. They don't have all kinds of diagnosis. Listen, the reason why they vaccinate kids at birth is so that you never see your kids regress. You never actually saw your kids' true potential. And the reason why they keep adding more vaccines is because they make more money. But the reason why they change the guidelines of when a child should talk and how they should act is because kids can't talk anymore at the age that they used to. Kids don't develop at the age they used to because you're poisoning them from birth on. Anyway, tomorrow going to be reason number 3, which you don't vaccinate. And then we got 4, then we got 5. You're going to love it. Anyway, going to finish out the series, and then we're going to go on to some other videos. If you want videos on other topics, please comment below because I'm back and I'm ready to rock. See you around.